another edition of our literary program. Today in this program, we will be discussing on Gandhi, his philosophy and its relevance today. And to discuss this with me, I am being joined by a panel here. But before that, let me remind you that Gandhian philosophy or Gandhism is the set of ideas based on social and religious ideas of Gandhiji, which he practiced and propagated in India. And of course, he practiced them in his days in South Africa between the period, say, from 1893 till 1914. And then he practices much more vigorously when he returned back to India after 1914. Well, these ideals or ideas are his set of philosophies which are based on many aspects that he calls as his philosophies, and two of his aspects, that is truth and nonviolence, are the two pillars, I guess, in which the whole other philosophies stands. Some of his other philosophies include, say, Satyagraha, Sarvodaya, Swadeshi, Swaraj, etc. And though in his philosophies, he has amalgamated from other philosophies or other principles of Western philosophy as well. But essentially, Gandhian philosophy is rooted to Indian culture and tradition. So today we will be talking about them, we will be understanding these philosophies all over again, and we will also try to understand how relevant are these philosophies even today, because times have changed. Those were the days when the country was going through a struggle. But today, we are in the 21st century, in the year 2023, and surely times have changed and many other things have also made a kind of a transformation. So how much of these philosophies of his can still be practiced, is still relevant? And to tell us all on that, we are being joined by a panel here. To my left is Indrani Chaudhary. She is the head Department of Philosophy, St. Mary's College, Shillong. We are also being joined by Pinskan La Kupar Manix Aim. He is the assistant professor from the Department of Political Science of St. Edmund's College. And to my extreme left is Ricky Basaimoit. He is also an assistant professor from the Department of History, St. Edmund's College, Shillong. So a very wholesome panel we have for you. Thank you so much, each one of you, for taking your time out. It's so wonderful to have you in our studio and to talk about Gandhiji and his ideals, his philosophies, his ideologies, and how relevant they are even today. So thank you once again very much. Well, I would come straight away to Ma'am Indrani. Indrani, you are teaching philosophy. And as I said, I just mentioned a few of his, because I'm sure you have so much more to tell us. In short, if you can just make your opening statement, what are the Gandhian philosophies?
See, when we talk about Mahatma Gandhi, the first thing that we remember is his experiments with truth. So I would say the most important concept, given the post-truth reality in which we are living, is his idea of absolute truth, and how he finally arrives at the idea of absolute truth. Here I would like to say that, normally when we talk about truth, we feel that truth in a way explains what our existence is all about. Now Gandhi used truth in many different senses. For him, truth means sincerity, truth means understanding yourself. So in a sense, for Gandhi, the journey of discovering truth was more of a process of self-realization. And perhaps that is why he talks about, he brings in the idea of God, okay? He time and again said, God is truth and truth is God, which means that you finally can know about yourself, you can know about your world, you can know about the reality around, only if you, start accepting where you are. And it is this acceptance, this acknowledgement of where I stand is very, very relevant in today's world. We don't arrive at the absolute truth straight away. We have to talk about the relative positions which we hold. And that also, I think, is very relevant in the present day world. Because unless you make room for the different perspectives that are there, you will keep on projecting your view vis-a-vis others' view. So in this sense, what I want to reiterate on is that Gandhiji was, was aware of the many-sidedness of reality, and he felt that it is only by acknowledging, accepting, and recognizing all the different perspectives of reality, we can ultimately understand what is the higher truth. There cannot be one truth. It is a process.
Right.
It is a dynamic process of learning who we are, who others are. But what do we see in this world? We see a continuous attempt of othering, of differentiating, and not really recognizing that others too have their positions and their truths. So that is what I think we need to focus on at this moment.
Right. Wonderfully spoken. I come to Ricky. Ricky, what are the first thoughts that comes to your mind as soon as we take the name Mahatma Gandhi?
Thank you, Maushami. Well, being a teacher of history, the first thought that comes to my mind when we talk about Mahatma Gandhi is a freedom fighter. Now, when we look at Mahatma Gandhi, we all know that Mahatma Gandhi has made a big contribution towards the freedom struggle. When we talk about his non-cooperation movement, his civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, and also not forgetting his initial stages of struggle in the Champaran Satyagraha. However, in all these struggles that Gandhi has involved himself, one very important fact we have to keep in mind is, or one very important principle of his we have to keep in mind is his principle of non-violence. When we talk about non-violence, non-violence here basically refers to the use of peace, like for example, the use of peace talks, the use of non-violent actions to fight for our rights, or to fight for what we think is our right for. But another very important thing about Gandhi is when we talk about him as a freedom fighter, is also his idea of Swaraj. When you talk about Swaraj, it means we can say self-reliance. Okay? Or moreover, when we go deep into it, there are many other important aspects that Gandhi has contributed, and all of these principles and aspects of, or we can say teachings of Gandhi, have indeed contributed a lot towards the, maybe I will not use the word success, but however have really alarmed the British during that period in India, which later on led to the independence in 1947. I guess ma'am and sir here would also agree to that, but however, as the topic has been mentioned earlier, how relevant are these principles are today is a matter of question. It is a matter of debate, is a matter of discussion, which I guess the panelists
we will be taking it up. But then yes, indeed, for most of us, Gandhi was a freedom fighter, as you rightly said, because for Pansgan also, you are a young, dynamic teacher, a student, and now you are teaching political science, of course. In your views, amongst the youth, do they still, acknowledge Gandhi and his contributions?
Their interpretation of Gandhi has been very different from our interpretation. For example, when we talk about his practice or his principle of Ahimsa, and he says that the non-violent way is the best way. So for most people, they think that to be non-violent is to be a coward. But to actually practice non-violence has to be a person who has the strongest of wills. I can give you an example here. Suppose if it's a person who knows martial arts, he knows very well that he or she can defend himself. So if they are caught in a situation where, they'll either try to, hamper things or try to do something about it, they'll try to stay away from the violence because they know exactly what they're capable of. Now, when we talk about Gandhi as a freedom fighter, we know his impact on the politics, the economy, and the society of India. But when we talk about it in today's time, is he relevant? Yes, very much so. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about all of his, the things that he's done in South Africa as well as in India. Now, there's two things that link the teachings and the principles of Gandhi. For me, it's basically patience and struggle. Something that the youth of today lack, very much so. Now, Gandhi, when he stated something, he says that as long as you take care of the means, the ends will take care of itself. Another thing also he stated was simple living, high thinking. Now, when you talk about patience, now when we go back to Gandhi's time, we talk about his Swadeshi movements, we talk about many things, his boycott movements. We see that he was patient in the sense that, okay, it did not work this way, we'll try it another way. If it does not work this way, we'll try it another way, not giving up. Struggle you can see right from Gandhi's childhood days. His mother belonged to a sect which practiced actually asceticism. And you could see very clearly from his struggle that he practiced that as well, you know, not going on hunger strikes, etc., etc. But from the youth today, where information is so easily available, and sometimes I myself am guilty of the fact that we have something known as dead scrolling, where we're supposed to be concentrating on something, but our attention span is like, okay, Instagram, Reels, and everything. And it's very much evident from the fact that these companies, they have been able to monetize on these situations by actually creating what we know as shorter videos. For example, YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Now, coming back to my point, what can we learn from Gandhi's teachings, especially when we talk about patience? Now, in order to achieve anything, we have to be patient about it. For example, if we adopt the right means, suppose a person who wants to clear the UPSC exams or whatever goals they want to achieve, you must have patience. You must struggle. Struggle in what sense? Not struggle in like going for a national movement or anything, but struggle in the sense that, you have to sacrifice those times.
Right.
You want to wake up at 5 a.m. That 5 minutes of extra sleep will hamper your career. So to sum up, what I can say about Gandhi's patience and struggle is that, if you want to achieve your goals, right, you have to sacrifice certain things. Otherwise, your goals become the sacrifice. So that is something that I feel and I truly believe that they can learn from Gandhi. Patience and struggling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so well put in, because this is what the youth must learn, and he has put it so well, right? But coming back to you again, Indrani, there are so many other of his philosophy. Say when we are talking about Sarvodaya, I mean, he spoke about Sarvodaya, that, you think of the goodness of others before you think good for yourself, because in the goodness of others also belongs your own good, all development. How is that relevant also today, you feel?
See, I would just like to go back to Ahimsa first, and then come to Sarvodaya. Because if we try to, understand this concept of Ahimsa, we find that Gandhi is not just emphasizing on love for, love as per se. It is love for your enemies. Now, of course, I don't mean that, you should look at someone and say that he's my. It could be a stranger. It could be someone you do not know. It could be someone who's different. So, if we realize that fundamentally we are all same, basically we all come from the same background, then we will not visualize someone else as different. That is what Gandhi talks about. That I need to first of all give up this false notion of individuated existence, that I am someone different, I am somebody. So if I can give up this idea of a ego, a false self, then I think it becomes much easier to embrace everyone.
To accept everybody, yes.
And from there comes the idea of Sarvodaya. So you have to go through a process of self-sacrifice. You have to look beyond your immediate interests, because what is war? War is interests warring against interests. So if you can give up your own partisan interests, it is only then you understand what other people require. So this sense of tolerance, this sense of recognizing that we all have needs, and even if our needs are different, we all finally, need to survive together.
Right.
So that would take us to Sarvodaya.
Yeah. In today's world, Ricky, which is so intolerant, everybody is seeking for self-profit, the self, right? We are all chasing for wealth, chasing for recognition, chasing for power, position, etc. So in this sense, how how easy or difficult it is to practice ahimsa. Because, somebody comes to me and is showing me all his upper strength and might, I will obviously also very much want to show it back to them, because I have not practiced ahimsa. That is, I am into himsa, that violence. Because everything, right from a video game of a child that is made today, is actually violent, full of violence. So in that midst, when a child is growing up with so much, of that gun power and at least play games and all that, how much is it, or how easy or difficult it is to practice non-violence for the youth of today?
I would start by repeating that statement which Sapin Kasan has just mentioned earlier: simple living and high thinking. I would also take the example which you've just said just now, Maushami, regarding a violent video game of a child. So if we talk about violence there, it all depends, for example, on how a child is being raised from this idea of simple living and high thinking. It's the parents, I feel, okay, who should have this idea, who should have this thought, who should be thinking about the well-being of their child, and on how to take that particular child on the right path, and on how to indulge that child in thinking something a bit higher, like for example, like the impact of that video game that it would have on him or her. I think teachings such as these would really imbibe in each and every one of us the idea of ahimsa, of violence. Yes, indeed, at times we cannot really be a coward by not I would say rebattling something which is aimed against us. But how we think, like what Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, simple living, high thinking, how we think, I guess, would simply change the scenario. Okay, depends on our action, depending on our thoughts, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah, and Prinskan, coming to you, I mean, often we see people take things to the streets, right? I mean, we have seen violence even in our city, when there are certain demands, and that is more evident actually than a peaceful. But between the two, if a youth has to choose the peaceful method, the peaceful means of achieving, is that more rewarding actually? It may take time, it may take a little bit of effort, but then in the long run, do you think peace is the only way to progress?
Peace is the only way. Peace as well as truth. Now, coming back to your question, whether, about ahimsa, I truly believe that ahimsa can be practiced today if the people have positive outlets. For example, when we talk about the youths of today, now going back to what I said, patience and struggle. Now, in psychology, there's something which we know as delayed gratification.
Okay.
So, when we talk about gratification, it means something, where there's a dopamine rush and there's a lot of things that you feel satisfied about yourself. Now, when I talk to you about negative outlets, let's just talk about social media again and how much it has impacted the minds of the youths, not just the youth, but a lot of people. Now, when they feel low and when they feel insecure about certain things, now, before the generations that we can learn, from the generations that we have before, we can learn the fact that, things take time. And if you're insecure about something, you have to work on it. But in today's time, you're insecure about something, you try to seek for validation from social media by maybe just posting something. Yeah, it may look like something really very small, okay, but if you see those likes coming up, so and so like this picture, you feel a bit happy.
Yeah, you get charged
but
up.
then after an hour or so, you feel you're back to your same position. Now, when we talk about peace, right? Peace can only occur when you struggle. Like when you, again, going back, for example, when you study for something, you're sacrificing parties, you're sacrificing friends for quite some time. But once you achieve that goal, what happens? There's peace in the soul, there's peace in the mind, and it reflects as well. So obviously, not obviously, sorry, but seeking peace is always the best solution. Because to Gandhi as well, even though he was beaten up, he was jailed, he was called many things, but he kept on struggling. He went back to the same principles that he had. That's why we have India right now. It's independent.
Yeah,
and all
true.
of that,
Because yes, because so often when any movement of his went the way that he did not wish it to go, like say the Chauri Chaura incident, he called off that entire movement,
Exactly.
and much to some of the leaders and some of the people's annoyance, because it was at its height, at its peak, and yet he told the congressman, go back to the village and practice, because you still have not learned. You still have to learn the art of practicing self-sacrifice and all his other principles. Now, coming back to you, Indrani, many of our current policies that the government has, Make in India and Digital India, because he was also he was not averse to technology. But then he ensured that these technologies should not really take over us, like we should be in control of the technologies as well. So, but we are in a technological age, and we are into that Swadeshi in the term, in the sense that we are a believer of Make in India. So do you think in that sense, in a different way, maybe we don't use the same term anymore, but much of it actually, many of our policies are actually, it stems from these Gandhian ideologies.
Absolutely. And I would say that, taking cue from what he was mentioning, that when you talk about machines, there is this process of dehumanization going on there, commodification going on there. Like, Gandhi was not against technology or machines as such, but he was against this, controlling of human mind, and that has happened. We can see it now. So perhaps going back to your roots, recognizing your your tradition, recognizing what belongs to you.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I'm talking about our culture, tradition, his ideas of basic education, and also his insistence on wearing khadi. Okay, this in a way takes you back to your roots.
Right.
Shows you who you are. Okay, and doesn't allow you to be a slave to machines. So what he was actually scared about, and which I think now is true, is that we should not allow machines or technology to invade our minds. Okay, and maim our spirit. We are no longer who we are. We are dependent on the phone, on the reels, on the videos, on what other people give us. So if everything is given to you, then you will not create anything. So which is why you need to go back to your roots, to learn art, craft, to get engaged in the process of creating something.
Absolutely. And what you said, going back to one's root, and here is the fact that we need to hold on to our culture, our tradition, which is our identity. I mean, even in the Northeast, we have a very vibrant tradition and culture. Look at our dress, the vibrant colors, and we need to hold on to these traditions, the customs. And here also is the way we can actually continue to practice the Gandhian philosophy. He also spoke about resisting injustice, right? I mean, we see so much of injustice, we don't accept it. But then we need to accept in a peaceful manner. We need to air our views in a peaceful manner. Quickly, as we are almost wrapping up, unfortunately, this program, when we have just begun, and there's so much to talk, really. So what is it, Ricky, if your closing comments, some of the ideals that the youth can still practice from what Gandhiji spoke about many years ago, because he was far ahead of his time? Quickly, your thoughts.
I would stress on the point which ma'am has just mentioned earlier: stick to your roots. The youth of today has been so much influenced by Western culture. If I may add, I'm not humiliating anyone here, but like, for example, how our youths are so influenced by the Korean culture today that they forget where they belong. Like, they are someone who they are not. So I would like to request the youths that let's stick to our roots. Let's remember where we belonged, and let's be proud of that.
Right. Yeah. And Pinskan, you, as I'm again calling you a representative of the youth who have gone a little bit of astray. I mean, would you also give a word of caution to the parents who give the mobile or that quick technology, even when before the child is even 1 year old, and the child gets so used to that it becomes a kind of a addiction? How much is too much? And so where should the line be drawn?
The benefits of having, a phone in today's time is very much seen. But I feel, a sentence or an advice I can give to parents today is that if you are going to, fight fire with fire, it will never happen. It will never work. So in order to calm down the flames, throw water instead.
Okay.
Now, instead of, if your child has done something wrong, don't scold them. Reason it out with them. Because us as well, when we're having an argument, what's the first thing that we do? When we argue, we're not listening to actually reason out. We're listening to reply, to answer back. And there's no resolution there.
Yeah.
But when you talk to someone, tell them, okay, look, you're on social media, but your privacy is, it's been shown all over the world. You reason it out with them, they'll listen to you.
Okay.
So I would say, fight fire with water.
Okay, that's a point well taken, because I think this is what I think the parents don't have share enough time with their children, right? Really don't have that time to reason it out also.
Yes,
But the fact that you've spoken it out, I'm sure that some parents who are watching this program will take quickly. Indrani, among so many of his ideals, which is that one that we should still hold on to?
I would go by the largest conception of love, the greatest charity. In today's world, that's the only thing we need.
Okay.
Let's accept, let's acknowledge, let's live with try to live with others, and try to understand that we may appear to be different, but finally we will all move towards God realization. That is what Gandhi wanted. And we don't have to look for God anywhere else. If we really want to understand who is God, we have to find Him within us. So the day we are able to understand that there is no other, the other is within us, that day we will be able to live together in peace.
Wonderful. I mean, because Gandhi really said that an eye for an eye is never a solution, then the whole world would have been blind, really. At the end of the day, I guess, despite the fact that so many years have rolled by, we are 75 years plus since independence. And these ideals were, though in those years when we were fighting for the freedom of the country, but I think they're still very much relevant indeed. And the youth of today can still hold on to these ideals, maybe not in the same manner, but then to some extent they can still follow these cardinal principles. And these principles of Gandhiji can still be shed that beacon of light to all the intolerance, to all the impatience, to all the wrong things that is happening in our lives and in the world of today. Thank you to each one of you, Ricky, Pinskan and Indrani, for coming to the studios of Doordarshan and enlightening us so beautifully about the relevance of these ideologies that Gandhiji had, the principles that he had, and how relevant they are, and how very much we can still practice them even today. Well then, my dear viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion today with us, and you have picked up a cue or two from this discussion, from all the wonderful things that our panelists have spoken about the relevance of Gandhian philosophy in today's modern times as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, from all of us here, it's wishing you goodbye.